before you go out there and you have a match, there's two questions outside of when and where that you should ask. Why and why not?
But work rate doesn't mean doing a bunch of moves. Work rate means telling a story. One of the best workers of all time was Hogan. He had a formula. You knew his formula. It was easy. It was like paint by numbers. Like you watch him against The Rock in Toronto, and I mean, you know, that's working. That was working. You know, that's the work. The work isn't whether or not you can do it like land a moonsault. That tells me that you've either spent time on a trampoline, time in one of those rooms with a trampoline that you jump on a bunch of foam cubes. Like, because when I broke in, guys didn't do that shit. There was 3 or 4. Kid was the only guy I knew. Like, Michaels would do the flip off the top rope, but he would go up and just say, "Catch me. Get a hand on me." He didn't know where the he was going. So you had to kind of sell. And as he was in the air, you had to turn and kind of meet him to make it look like you. But this of it being a 6-man tag and a guy gets stopped and the other 4 guys are outside fighting and the guy ends up on the top rope and just happens to pirouette on top of the other 4 guys. Bye. I'm gone.
So it's almost an argument of what work rate means, I guess. But, I mean, what do you think of Kevin Nash's comments, and what does work rate mean to you in sort of a dictionary definition?
Well, I think he's 100% right in the vein that what can you tell me? I can tell you what Hulk Hogan's moves are. I can tell you the punch, the elbow, maybe the back suplex, the big boot, and then the 3 punches into the big boot, and then the leg drop finish. I can tell you what Kevin Nash does. Kevin Nash does the jackknife, does the side slam, does the snake eyes, does the flippers, and does the elbows in the corners with the knee. Okay? I can tell you what Bret Hart does. Because if you're saying, well, Kevin Nash, a big guy, doesn't. Bret Hart does the elbow off the top rope or the second rope, the kind of like jamming, the pendulum elbow. We did a video on the analysis channel before. I had a lot of fun with that. All right. Russian leg sweep. What else? Chest into the turnbuckle. It can be both ways. Moves given, moves taken. What else? The sharpshooter, obviously.
Russian leg sweep. Thinking the Sandman
that's
version.
Sandman's what?
Yeah.
No, I said Russian leg sweep.
Oh,
so
I'm
basically,
sorry.
for the Cena with his, they call it the 5 moves of doom. But guess what the 5 moves of doom are? And Ultimate Warrior sometimes had even less than that. You identify and they fit the character. Okay? Michaels would probably be criticized for doing too many high spots, but Michaels would always put it in the vein of his character getting caught with something, and then as a babyface, he would hit the moves. Ric Flair essentially almost did the same match. Ole Anderson complained about it in shoot interviews. But you identified a Ric Flair match and you knew what to expect and you knew what was exciting, and he would throw a little twist and a turn in there and develop the match and tease stuff. Kevin's absolutely right. In other words, Will Ospreay and Ricochet, we talked about them earlier in the show, or we talked about them on Patreon. They did the thing. What moves identified Will Ospreay as Will Ospreay? What moves identify Ricochet as Ricochet? All right, Ricochet does the shooting star press. Okay, that's the finish. What does he set it up with? What move puts a guy in position for that? You know, Bret, when he does the Russian leg sweep, he's usually right there with the pendulum elbow. When he starts working the leg, you know, oh my God, he put the leg over the rope, he jumped and squatted on the guy's knee, the sharpshooter's coming up soon. These are all things identified. You know, Kevin Nash, strap comes down, hand goes up, jackknife's coming. These are all, also just the names of the moves. Jackknife, Diesel. Bret Hart, sharpshooter. The excellence of execution. these things all fit with each other. I love when Cena did, the FU. You know what I mean? They had changed the attitude adjustment, but still, you have you have guys that think work rate is it's like being vicious. Some guys think being vicious means hitting them even harder, not the viciousness of your face as you're getting ready to hit them with a work punch. So work rate isn't a million bumps. Work rate isn't, you know, just moves. Kevin Nash is actually right. Before you go out there and you have a match, there's two questions outside of when and where that you should ask. Why and why not? Why not is the leading question. Why should I not do this move? You actually use the scientific method to say, do I do this move or do I not do it? And you try to disprove why you should do the move. And then you basically, if you run out of that, you say, okay, I should do the move. It makes sense.
Dave Meltzer would say, or I would imagine he would have a dictionary definition
Plans
of his
change.
own. Yeah, plans
Plans
change. Work
change.
rate. Work rate. Rate work. The word changed. He would say, or I imagine he would say, or started saying in the 90s maybe, that work rate was actually either the amount of effort that people were putting in or the speed of what wrestlers were going through the motions with. And I know, I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were a rookie or maybe many years into your career, people were saying to you, when you think you're going too slow, slow down. And I'm wondering if it's this Meltzerification of the business where, he's awarding stars for speed and the more moves basically, and then calling it work rate. So I think there's almost like a workers' version definition of what the word means, and then a non-workers definition of what work rate means.
Well, I think work rate is a bunch of different things, and work rate is also factored into what we talked about earlier with people protecting each other and being light and not hurting each other. That's work rate to me, that you are a worker, you mastered your craft to make it look real, and you're hardly touching me or you touch me a little heavy in a safe place. That's work rate to me. What's the Punk quote that he said about AEW? If you're rating a match 5 stars, but the building is a quarter full, then you and I are in different businesses or different wrestling businesses.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I would encapsulate what Kevin said and what Dave would say. And Dave can have his opinion, but his opinion is really not fact when it comes to work rate. Because you tell me, is Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, each with 3 to 5 moves that don't mean anything in general terms, their match, you're telling me, is not 5 stars because people still remember that match decades later. Rock versus Hogan, decades later. Rocky's only got technically 5, 6 moves. So, but you're telling me, Will Ospreay versus Ricochet, which, by the way, before you mentioned it, I forgot they even had matches. You had to remind me.
Mm-hmm.
If you say the name Ultimate Warrior or Hulk Hogan, or dare I say, if you say the name Kevin Nash, I'm thinking match-wise, WrestleMania 11 versus Shawn Michaels. I'm thinking WrestleMania versus Taker. I'm thinking In Your House versus Shawn Michaels, where he took the Shawn's leg off to hit Shawn with. He made moments and memories. I of course, Hulk Hogan joining the NWO and trash being thrown in and many, many moments that had nothing to do with the thing.
Mm-hmm. Bret Hart's 5 Moves of Doom, which tvtropes.org have helpfully written out here, is the inverted atomic drop, Russian leg sweep, backbreaker, elbow drop from the second rope, Bret's rope, and the sharpshooter. And John Cena's is flying shoulder block, sit-out hip toss, the proto bomb, which was apparently John Cena's old finisher, 5-knuckle shuffle, and the attitude adjustment, aka the FU. By the way, the STFU, I will still say, is the most clever name for a move in the world, because he started with an STF and somehow put the acronym together.
I love it.
Genius.
And by the way,
and it was awful when he did it, and it didn't matter.
No. It's awful when he did it, and also the five knuckle shuffle didn't it misses every time. But the fans react and know the attitude adjustment's coming.
Mhm.
So technically with Dave, that wouldn't be work rate because it's not a move where you're kicking someone's head off, but the fans are on their feet waiting for the next move, which is just basically a fireman's carry into a body slam.